Last season, the Lakers had one of the most underwhelming bench units in the entire NBA. Statistically, they were ranked around the bottom, 27th overall, which says a lot for a team with championship aspirations. Now, while they did manage to put up a decent amount of points from time to time, the advanced metrics paint a much clearer picture. They had a minus 7.2 point differential when the bench was on the floor. That's brutal. It wasn't just that they lacked scoring punch. It was also the lack of consistent chemistry, rhythm, and roles. Sure, there were occasional stretches where players like D'Angelo Russell or Rui Hachimura came off the bench and gave a spark, but those moments were inconsistent and more situational than a sustainable part of the rotation. The Lakers just didn't have a bench unit you could count on over the course of an entire season, especially when the starters sat and the team needed to hold leads or cut deficits. Fast forward to this new season, and the outlook feels different. Not drastically, not world-shaking, but different enough to be intriguing. When you look at the starting lineup, it's clear the Lakers are leaning heavily into offensive firepower. With names like Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, LeBron James, and DeAndre Ayton projected to start, that's a nightmare for opposing defenses. Offensively, there's almost no weakness in that starting five. You've got playmaking, isolation scores, shooters, post presence, everything. But that also means a lot of the defensive weight is going to fall on the second unit. That's where guys like Marcus Smart, Gabe Vincent, and Jared Vanderbilt come into play. These are defensive-minded players who can anchor the bench on that end of the court. So now the question becomes, will the bench be balanced enough? Not necessarily to be the best second unit in the league. That's not the expectation, but can they at least be middle of the pack? Can they hold their own when the stars sit? Last year, teams like the Spurs led the league with around 44 points per game off the bench. The Lakers don't need to hit that mark, but if they can float somewhere around 35 to 40 and do it efficiently, that could make a massive difference. The key will be finding the right combinations. You got pieces this year that could really help with that. Jake LaRavia, for instance, is an interesting name. He might not be a household name yet, but he's shown flashes of offensive efficiency and shooting touch. He's the kind of guy who could quietly average double digits if given the right role. Then there's the Rui situation. If Rui ends up moving to the bench, which is a real possibility, especially with all the buzz around Marcus Smart potentially joining the starting five, that could unlock a new dynamic. Rui coming off the bench as a focal point on offense, that's a huge swing. Alongside LaRavia, that could give the Lakers a legitimate scoring punch off the bench that they lacked last season. Add to that Jackson Hayes, who this year is expected to come off the bench full-time. Last season, because of injuries to Anthony Davis and other rotations, Hayes had to start more than expected. But now, in a defined bench role, he can thrive. He's an athletic big who can rim run, finish lobs, and provide some interior presence. Even if he's giving you 8 to 10 points per night, that's solid production, especially when paired with energy and defense. Gabe Vincent is another name worth mentioning. Towards the end of last season, he started to find his rhythm and adjust to the system. With a full off-season, training camp, and preseason under his belt, there's optimism he can step into a more comfortable role this year. And then there's Jared Vanderbilt. He's looked solid during summer runs and open gyms, but as we all know, that doesn't always translate when the lights come on and you've got defenders closing out with real intensity. Still, if he can knock down the corner three with some level of consistency and maintain his usual defensive effort, he becomes a very valuable rotation piece. What makes this year's bench more intriguing is the depth of options. We haven't even talked about players like Dalton Connect, who can explode for 30 or more points on any given night. That kind of offensive potential, even if only realized sporadically, adds a whole new layer. Maxey Kleber is another solid option who can space the floor and provide some veteran savvy. Even Bronny James, depending on how quickly he adjusts to the NBA, could bring defensive intensity and high IQ play. And then there's Adado Okunbo's younger brother, who's more of a defensive weapon than an offensive one. But again, the Lakers have the pieces to tailor the bench based on matchup needs. Need offense? Lean into guys like Connect, Kleber, LaRavia. Need to lock up defensively? Bring in Vanderbilt, Smart, and Vincent. There's even more intrigue when you consider the idea of staggering stars. Let's say the Lakers roll with a starting unit of Luka Doncic, Marcus Smart, Jared Vanderbilt, LeBron James, and DeAndre Ayton. That's a defensively balanced lineup, and you still have enough offense to compete at a high level. Luka, in particular, tends to come out firing in the first quarter, often taking a huge chunk of his total shots early in the game. So why not surround him with defenders who can switch, rotate, and keep things tight on the other end? You can always bring Austin Reeves in after a few minutes if the offense isn't clicking. But to start games, there's logic in going defense-heavy around your offensive centerpiece, especially if Luka's putting up 20 in the first quarter, which he's fully capable of doing. And now look at what that would mean for the bench. You'd have Reeves, Rui, LaRavia, Hayes, and Vincent all available to stagger in. That's a serious second unit, one with spacing, scoring, playmaking, and defense. Not to mention the flexibility to adjust depending on who's hot and what the matchup requires. The real wild card here, though, is Rui Hachimura. There's growing chatter that he may not be part of the long-term plans. The Lakers haven't rushed into an extension, and he's already being floated in early trade talks. If that's the case, they may not be overly concerned with keeping him happy in terms of role or minutes. On the flip side, Austin Reeves seems to be firmly in the organization's future. All signs point to the Lakers preparing to offer him a contract north of $30 million per year. That tells you everything you need to know. Reeves isn't coming off the bench unless it's for rest or recovery. So if Rui does slide to the bench, there's real potential for him to be a sixth man of the year candidate. If, and only if, the Lakers actually run offense through him. He's a guy who's been averaging 13 points per game while mostly floating through the offense, not having plays called for him. Imagine what he could do if he becomes the focal point for bench units. 17 points a night? Totally possible, especially if he's going up against other teams' second units. The talent is there. The key is usage and intention. If he's just out there existing, he'll keep putting up 13. But if the team prioritizes his touches and lets him operate, he could be a difference maker. And then there's Jake LaRavia. Before his injury last season, he was showing real signs of growth, particularly during his stretch with Sacramento. He's the kind of guy who can quietly put up 12 to 15 points if given consistent minutes. That's a scoring option the Lakers simply didn't have last year. No one off the bench was that reliable offensively. LaRavia might not be a future all-star, but he doesn't need to be. He just needs to be consistent. And if he's coming off the bench, giving you a dozen a night, that's a win. Pair him with Rui, and suddenly you've got both wings covered in second units, spacing the floor and attacking closeouts. That's a luxury this team hasn't had in a while. Now, picture this. Austin Reeves running the second unit with Rui and LaRavia on the wings, Jared Vanderbilt providing defensive grit, and Jackson Hayes or Ayton holding it down in the paint. That's a lineup that can score and defend. That's a lineup with real versatility. Reeves could be the primary playmaker and scorer, while Rui and LaRavia play off him. Hayes gives you rim protection and lob potential. And Vanderbilt takes the toughest defensive assignment. It's not a bench that'll blow teams away every night, but it's one that can hold the fort, which is exactly what you need when your stars sit. And we haven't even touched on how many variations the Lakers can run. They've got so many interchangeable pieces that Darvin Ham could spend the entire first month just experimenting with different looks. What does a bench-heavy unit with Bronny, Connect, Kleber, Vincent, and Hayes look like? What happens if you need more floor spacing? Plug in Kleber and LaRavia. Need more slashing and pace? Run with Bronny and Vincent in the backcourt. There are real options here, and early experimentation could be the key to finding what works best. The big picture here is that this year's Lakers bench feels deeper and more flexible than what we saw last season. It's not necessarily top tier, and it's certainly not bulletproof, but it's capable. With the right rotations, with some scoring consistency from a couple of key guys, and with a few players taking that next step, this could be the year the bench goes from a liability to a strength. There's still a lot of ifs. If Rui embraces the role, if LaRavia stays healthy, if Hayes continues to improve, if Vincent finds his rhythm. But if even a couple of those things click, the Lakers will be in a much better place. Another aspect that could shift the entire narrative around the Lakers bench is the integration of young and improving talent, and how much trust the coaching staff is willing to place in those guys early on. Dalton Knecht, for example, might not be a top-of-the-rotation player from day one, but there's no denying his scoring potential. He's got the kind of game that translates in the NBA: quick trigger, range well beyond the arc, and enough size to get a shot off even with tight contests. There are going to be nights where Knecht comes in and catches fire, and it's going to be up to Darvingham to ride the hot hand. That's the type of scoring volatility that can swing games during the regular season. Even if he doesn't deliver every night, his presence alone can open up the floor by forcing defenses to respect the threat. And when you have someone like Reeves orchestrating, those lanes become even more dangerous. Then there's Bronny James, and while his name obviously carries weight, what matters is whether he can contribute meaningfully in his rookie year. No one is expecting him to come in and average 15 points, but defensively, he has tools the Lakers could utilize. His instincts, effort, and IQ on that end were evident even in college, and now that he's got elite teammates around him, there's less pressure for him to do too much. His best-case scenario this year would be to become a situational defender, someone who can switch, chase shooters, and inject energy when needed. If Bronny can do that, stay engaged, and knock down a few open shots here and there, that's already more than what the end of the bench gave last season. He doesn't need to be a star. He needs to be solid. And with his work ethic, that's very much on the table. We also have to mention Adedokunbo's younger brother, who has quietly built a defensive reputation in his own right. He's not going to be a focal point on offense, but the Lakers don't need him to be. What they need is a reliable stopper, someone who can switch from wings to bigs, run the floor, and provide help-side defense. If he carves out even 10 to 15 minutes a night and commits fully to being that kind of high-energy role player, that's another valuable piece in the rotation. His offensive impact will likely be limited, but that's not the point. The Lakers have plenty of scorers. What they've been missing at times is guys who embrace the dirty work, who can change the energy of a game without touching the ball much. And here's the thing. The potential is all there. You can see it. It's not theoretical. The Lakers have the pieces. They have the veteran presence, the youthful energy, the offensive weapons, and the defensive stoppers. Now, it's about putting it all together. That's the challenge. That's the opportunity. Because if they figure this out, if they find the right combinations, if they unlock just a couple of these bench guys to take a leap, this team becomes much more than just top-heavy. They become dangerous at all times. A team that doesn't fall apart when starters sit. A team that can throw different looks at you all night. A team that doesn't rely on LeBron or Luka to save them every fourth quarter. That's the difference between being good and being great. And this year, that difference might just come from the bench. Before we continue, we ask that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Lakers updates. Moving on, the rumors swirling around the NBA landscape has reached fever pitch as whispers of TYRESE MAXEY joining the Los Angeles Lakers have ignited speculation across both coasts, leaving fans and analysts in a state of cautious excitement. Sources close to the matter suggest that preliminary discussions have been underway for weeks, with the Lakers front office reportedly exploring every possible avenue to integrate Maxey into their star-studded roster. While official confirmation has yet to materialize, the intensity of the chatter hints at a move that could reshape not only Los Angeles' backcourt dynamics, but also the balance of power in the Western Conference. Maxey, known for his explosive scoring ability and clutch performances, would provide the Lakers with a lethal offensive spark, something that has been speculated as a missing ingredient in their championship aspirations. The timing of this alleged agreement appears to coincide with the Lakers' desire to maintain competitiveness in an increasingly crowded field, where teams like the Denver Nuggets and Golden State Warriors have asserted themselves as formidable contenders. Enthusiasts on social media are already debating Maxey's potential fit alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis, dissecting hypothetical lineups and rotations in an attempt to predict the tangible impact of such a high-profile acquisition. Analysts have begun to parse Maxey's statistical contributions, noting his efficiency from beyond the arc and his improved playmaking, which could mesh seamlessly with the Lakers' pace and space approach under the current coaching philosophy. The implications of MAXEY's rumored arrival extend beyond simple roster adjustments, touching on the strategic architecture of the Lakers' future seasons. If the deal comes to fruition, it could signal a bold shift in the team's recruitment philosophy, moving toward younger, high-energy players who can both complement veteran leadership and sustain the intensity required for deep playoff runs. MAXEY's skill set, particularly his ability to create separation and generate offense off the dribble, addresses one of the Lakers' recurring vulnerabilities, namely a reliance on isolation plays and inconsistent perimeter shooting. Insiders speculate that the Lakers' management has weighed the financial logistics carefully, factoring in salary cap considerations and potential trade scenarios to make room for MAXEY's contract while retaining core contributors. Meanwhile, the league's rumor mills are buzzing with speculation about which current Lakers might be impacted by this acquisition, from rotational shifts to potential trades aimed at optimizing the roster balance. MAXEY's defensive limitations are also a point of discussion among analysts, prompting debate over whether the Lakers' defensive schemes will need substantial adjustment or if veteran mentorship can mitigate these concerns. Fans, fueled by highlight reels and past performances, are crafting mental scenarios where MAXEY thrives in Los Angeles' system, imagining fast break dunks, clutch three-pointers, and late-game heroics that could redefine the narrative of a team constantly striving for championship relevance in a highly competitive league environment that shows no signs of slowing down. Industry insiders are hinting at a flurry of behind-the-scenes negotiations that may have set the stage for this blockbuster rumor, with MAXEY's representatives allegedly holding preliminary talks with Lakers executives to gauge mutual interest and long-term vision alignment. The prospect of MAXEY joining a franchise with the stature and media scrutiny of the Lakers is a tantalizing narrative that fuels speculation across podcasts, sports radio, and online forums. Some suggest that this move could be a strategic gamble, aiming to inject a youthful scoring threat into a roster anchored by aging superstars, thereby extending the team's window of competitive relevance. Meanwhile, MAXEY's performance trajectory, marked by steady improvements in three-point shooting and on-ball defense, aligns with the Lakers' desire to balance offensive firepower with defensive reliability. Betting markets and fantasy leagues are reportedly beginning to respond to the rumor, with shifts in projections and player valuations reflecting a growing acknowledgement that this scenario is being taken seriously by insiders. Sports commentators have begun theorizing about coaching strategies, discussing whether the Lakers might adopt more pick-and-roll sets to exploit MAXEY's strengths or adjust spacing to maximize efficiency. The narrative also explores psychological dimensions, pondering how MAXEY would adapt to the pressure cooker environment of Los Angeles, where expectations are sky-high and media scrutiny relentless, suggesting that the human element could be just as decisive as the technical considerations in determining the success of this potential union. Adding to the intrigue, sources indicate that MAXEY's rumored commitment to the Lakers is part of a broader trend in the league where younger, dynamic guard are being prioritized by veteran-laden teams seeking sustainable competitiveness. The Lakers, traditionally known for marquee free agent acquisitions, may be signaling a shift toward strategic youth integration, blending emerging talent with established stars to create a more versatile and resilient roster. Stay informed exclusively about Los Angeles Lakers news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep receiving daily updates. Also, share your opinion on the news in the comments, as your contribution is crucial for the Lakers. Stay tuned for the next video.